Because there's Taylor beef.
Well, there's
no denying it. There's Taylor beef.
for sure, and that's true.
And when are we going to clear that beef up?
There's a situation. Honestly, it's really like she started it, and it's time for her to finish.
I'm still someone who is the first to apologize when I'm wrong, so.
You and Taylor Swift got over your feud. So you sent an olive branch.
I sent a literal olive branch to her tour, and then we started seeing each other out and about, and I just would walk up to her and say, hey, how are you? And I was just, it's like we have so much in common. There's probably only 10 people in the world that have the same things in common. I was like, we should really be friends over that and share like our strengths and our weaknesses and our challenges, you know?
It's ridiculous to hold on to things like that.
Yeah. You need to bury that.
I'm glad.
Welcome back to Roots Music History. On this podcast, we talk about the stories behind songs and artists, as well as moments in history and history in the making. Taylor Swift is currently being idolized by young women everywhere. But is it for all the wrong reasons? Who is Taylor Swift, really? Is she a sociopath? The definition of a sociopath, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is someone who has a pervasive disregard for the rights, feelings, and safety of others. A sociopath is also typically described as someone who may display manipulative and deceitful behaviors starting from a young age. Just as a disclaimer to this video is for entertainment purposes only. I am not diagnosing Taylor Swift with anything. I am asking you if at the end of this video, after you have seen everything that I have laid out, if you are drawing the same conclusion that I am, that it is quite possible Taylor Swift is actually a certifiable sociopath, because she might be. When we look at all of this together, it does not look good. I mean, from my perspective, all this woman has done is backstab, lie, manipulate, and straight up deceive her fans and young women who are unfortunately young and very easily influenced. But let's dig into some of the details here. So grab a cup of coffee or grab a cup of tea and let's spill the tea on Taylor Swift. Honestly, I don't even know where to start. So let's start at the beginning with who her father is and his level of involvement. Taylor Swift's dad is Scott Kingsley Swift. Her dad was a stockbroker at Merrill Lynch for years. Within Merrill Lynch, he established the Swift Group, which was a financial advisory group. When Taylor was 14, he transferred to the Merrill Lynch office in Nashville, Tennessee, and the family settled in a suburb called Hendersonville. Taylor attended the Hendersonville High School for a short period of time, where reportedly most people hated her. Now, Taylor says she was severely bullied by her peers. I am going to show you a video clip of, I guess it was a news station who came in to do a special on Taylor when she had just signed with her record label and was just starting. They came into her high school and took some video footage of her in high school in the hallways. And I am telling you, this is not a woman who was bullied in high school. I am telling you as someone who was bullied in high school. I was humiliated by my peers in high school. Looking at the footage of her in high school with all her friends, just her aura and the way she looks, this is not someone who was being humiliated in front of her peers. It just is not. So let's take a look at her in high school, walking through the halls. Look at her confidence. Look at how her shoulders are back and her head is high. And then let's come back and chat.
Have 3 alternate outfits. Outfit number 1, 2, and 3. What about, do you want a necklace? I have that necklace. Yeah, definitely. I don't think it'd be the choker. It doesn't come off. This one will take it off. I'm emotionally attached to the choker.
Okay, sounds good. Take care, guys.
All right. I'm driving. You can't stop me. I was talking to him about that yesterday, and I was like, don't worry, you and Autumn are so cute together. Is this our room? Yeah. To the public for what you stand.
Sailor and Chris.
I just got my report card back, and I had straight A's. I'm really happy.
Chris, you haven't had one.
My dad said that he's really impressed with your music. He wanted me to tell you that.
Really? We listened to your
He said you sound like you're like 25.
So compare this video of her actually in high school to her interviews years later when she is just talking about high school.
With music, that's where I can say whatever. I mean, I remember like when I was in school, the whole reason I started writing songs was because I was alone a lot of the time. And, you know, I'd sit there in school and I'd be hearing people like, oh my God, this party we're going to is going to be so awesome on Friday. Everyone's invited except for her over there, you know, like, and I just wouldn't be invited to stuff. And I would sit there and I'd be like, it's okay, because I can write a song about this later.
She is hunched over. She's like trying to make herself as small as possible. And you believe it. I believed it for the longest time until I found these videos of her in high school walking around like she owns those hallways. It's deceitful. If they had approached me and said, we would like to come into your high school to take some video footage, as someone who was actually bullied in high school, I'm telling you right now, I would not have let them in those four walls. Because as someone who is actually being humiliated by their peers, you don't want anybody to know that. You don't want anyone to see you failing at a social dynamic like that, because that's how it feels when you're being bullied and you're being humiliated. You feel as though you are failing socially, and you don't want people to see that. You don't want people to know. In fact, many times kids don't even tell their parents about what is going on at school if they are being bullied or teased or anything like that. Look at her laughing at the lunch table. I didn't even have a seat at the lunch table. I never even ate lunch with people.
The fact remains is that there were not a lot of people at high school who had nice things to say about her.
It seems very small, but to me, that is the first indication of what she is capable of and how she can do a bait and switch and be one person at one point in time and be a totally other person at another point in time. So regardless, I personally think people focus way too much on whether or not she was bullied, and I think Taylor focuses too much on that too. But it's when Taylor started to experience fame that her attitude started to get worse. More than just sociopathic, I also feel as though she starts showing serious signs of narcissism. Now, within 1 year of moving to Hendersonville, just to put it in perspective, Taylor had made connections at RCA Records. RCA offered her a deal, but a big part of that deal entailed waiting and not really doing anything because they told Taylor they wanted her to develop her voice a little bit more and hone in on her craft. Then one day she was singing at the Bluebird Cafe when Scott Borchetta approached her about joining a record label he was just starting. He was going to call it, or was calling it, I should say, Big Machine Records. Now, this deal that Scott offered Taylor meant that Taylor could begin working on an album right away. Scott wasn't sitting there saying she still had developmental work to do. He was ready to hit the ground running with her. And it was either as a thank you or as an incentive to sign Taylor that Taylor's father, Scott Swift, invested in Scott Borchetta's Big Machine Records. Now, keep in mind, Scott Borchetta had just started Big Machine, so he was eager to have anyone invest, anyone who wanted to at all. And I kind of think deep down in my soul that this was incentive to sign Taylor and to get her started. I think her father did this for his daughter, which is fine. But did he buy her this record deal? Kind of looks like it. Now, her father's investment in Big Machine Records was reportedly about a 2 to 3% stake, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this becomes really important later in the video where she actually put someone's entire family and himself in danger, like a true sociopath with a total disregard for it. So remember this now, how her father owns 2 to 3% in Big Machine Records, and we will get to that big dramatic hoopla. And this was all in 2004. In 2006, just 2 years after she is signed to Big Machine, she releases Tim McGraw. When you think Tim McGraw, I hope you think my favorite song. That was her first big hit. And she was just a cute, blonde, Southern belle. Everybody loved her vibe and was eating it up, even though she really wasn't good. She really was not talented. And I urge people to do this, and I'm going to urge you to do it right now. Think back in your brain to the very first time you saw and or heard Taylor Swift. Think back to that moment. And what was your gut reaction? Did you think she's not really that talented?
Do you think she's talented? Deeply and importantly talented?
No. Amusingly and superficially talented, yes, but deeply and importantly, no.
And I think a lot of people saw her and thought, what is this? In fact, my favorite Taylor Swift story, I was at a wedding in Iowa, and this couple, I didn't even bring up Taylor Swift. I just told them that I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and they went off with this story. They told me about how they went to this country concert years ago. The opener was this girl who was so bad. They almost left the concert, but they really wanted to see the headliner. But they just sat there thinking, how could this girl be so bad? How could this opener be so bad for such a good artist? For years at the dinner table, they talked about this opener and how bad the opener was, but how good the show was. Then fast forward a few years or a period of time, I don't know how long it was, but they're watching an award show and Taylor Swift comes out with her guitar and starts singing Tim McGraw. They just died laughing because they were like, holy crap, that's the girl that we saw who was so bad. Like, what? And their brains were just like, what? How did she get here? Nothing was really a red flag at that point when Taylor Swift first came on the scene. But then this video emerges of Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift backstage. And this was just maybe 2 years after Taylor hit it big with Tim McGraw. It might have been 2008, 2009-ish kind of time frame. I would have to check the exact date, but it was somewhere, just a few years after she had made it big. This is the first public red flag that many argued was indicative of Taylor's possible narcissism, which I think contributes to possibly her being a sociopath. Like, genuinely. In this clip, it starts off with Miley and Taylor backstage. Not many people saw this video, by the way, but those who did thought Taylor, she is oddly standoffish and borderline rude to Miley Cyrus during this whole interaction back there.
Some other world! It's Miley, wait, what? Hold on, hey, look!
So much fun, and I'm freaking out, and Miley's video blogging too.
Video blogging! What are you video blogging for?
Thank you so much for tagging along.
Oh. I'm video blogging for Motherworld, motherworld.com, just saying. Okay, just kidding. All right, yo.
I love you so much. Thank you so much for tagging along.
Yo.
And I think a lot of people thought, oh, maybe she was just busy and, maybe it was just a bad time for Miley to be filming. But if you are new in the music industry and you're backstage and someone is filming you and it's clear that this is going to go out to Miley's fans, you should be trying to be your best self. She was just so laser focused on the mirror in front of her and on herself. It was just weird. It was just weird. So that's the first encounter, is Miley trying to talk to Taylor, but she is way too preoccupied with herself and hardly gives Miley the time of day. And Miley just seems to kind of brush it off and keep smiling, but everyone, I think, felt awkward watching it. And then they're backstage again, and Taylor yells at her mother, like completely snaps at her mom.
Get that out of the way. No, I'm just joking.
Are you filming, Mom? Would you like for me to?
These are neat little things you guys have.
Were you not filming that?
Are these phone cameras?
Okay, cool. Okay. Ready?
You're not filming that,
Please.
And she's super snotty and is like, yes, please. Like, you stupid. Of course, she's a teenager and she's going to have an attitude problem with her mom. All teenagers do. And I think a lot of people just chalked up that moment to a snotty teenager. But then after it's over, she has like another meltdown over the fact that the battery light turned off and the camera possibly didn't capture the whole thing.
Flipped off on me.
Yeah, the battery flipped off when you were singing.
I'll email it to you.
And I was like, what?
And like I said, these are just baby red flags at this point, but the baby red flags are important because things start to escalate. In 2010, it's safe to say Taylor is on top of the world. She is very much so in her country music era, and she's headlining for her tour for Fearless. Katy Perry enters the chat. Katy Perry was also doing very well in 2010, but Katy Perry had a totally different vibe from Taylor. Taylor was always portraying herself as this sweet, little vulnerable country peach, and Katy Perry's vibe was more out there and in your face and like actually fearless. It's also important to note Katy Perry was older than Taylor. Katy was about 24 when they met and Taylor was 19. I think this is important to the story because I believe Katy Perry handled Taylor's drama with a sense of maturity that Taylor was lacking at age 19 and is still lacking, in my opinion, today. And Taylor Swift and Katy Perry were industry friends, you could say. After a short while, however, it seemed like Taylor realized Katy Perry was her #1 competitor for that #1 place on the charts. And Taylor started to see Katy as a threat. And this is the first of many instances where Taylor Swift sees a threat to the crown and literally, quite literally, neutralizes the threat. In the instance of Katy Perry, Taylor's fans started to notice Taylor was going more and more pop, in the same way Katy Perry had always been. Katy Perry also entered into a relationship with John Mayer. Just a quick backstory on this relationship between Taylor Swift and John Mayer. John Mayer was 32 years old when he reached out to Taylor when she was 19 years old. It started with an innocent message about collaborating professionally on a song. The two started spending time together on the song, and by the end of 2009 were romantically involved. Now, Taylor would say it was a relationship, while others insinuated it was just 1 or 2 dates, but either way, it all fell apart in February of 2010. The split seemed amicable, and it didn't seem like there was any type of bad blood between them until Taylor went public with her 2010 album, which included a song called Dear John. The song included lyrics like, "Don't you think 19's too young to be played by your dark, twisted games? I should have known." And she repeats that phrase, "Don't you think I was too young?" several times, which obviously blew up listeners everywhere who were just captivated by this drama. One person was not captivated. In fact, one person was not amused at all, and that was John himself. He told Rolling Stone in an interview that the song made him feel terrible and absolutely humiliated. He said, quote, "I didn't deserve it. I'm pretty good at taking accountability, and I never did anything to deserve that. It was a really lousy thing for her to do." He went on to say, "I never got an email. I never got a phone call. I was really caught off guard, and it really humiliated me at a time when I'd already been dressed down." I mean, how would you feel if at the lowest you've ever been, someone kicked you even lower? John Mayer then dismissed the track as, quote, "cheap songwriting," adding, "I know she's the biggest thing in the world, and I'm not trying to sink anybody's ship, but I think it's abusing your talent to rub your hands together and go, wait till he gets a load of this." And it all seems far too familiar, because if you go back to what the former classmate of hers said about her in high school, she said a lot of people didn't like her. She never said that they bullied her. She said Taylor did invite them to an award show years later, kind of as an FU in their face. And she said we deserved it. But she doesn't say that they bullied her. She said everyone just hated her, and also makes the point she was writing songs about males who were still in the high school.
Also, the guys she was writing these songs about, they were still in school, you know? They were still there. And now they have a hit song about them talking about what a boyfriend they are, you know?
You know, these are young boys, young men who are learning how to love, learning how to be in relationships. They are still learning their social skills. And this woman, or this girl at the time, Taylor Swift, was going out to the public and just throwing them under the bus. And it's continued. Now she's 19 years old with John Mayer, and she's doing it again.
Taylor Swift is the ultimate mean girl. She's been the ultimate mean girl for a very long time. You piss her off, she's going to have a bunch of 14-year-olds singing stuff. Like, that's how she thinks that's healthy.
When Katy and John started dating, Taylor went around and started trash talking John to everyone and had all of her friends unfollow John on like all social platforms. It was so childish and weird, but also people were like, look, it's a breakup, you know, whatever. But it gets so much dirtier than that. She then goes in for the kill for Katy Perry. Taylor Swift does an interview at Rolling Stone where she says another female artist tried to sabotage her tour. Now that is a strong word, sabotage a tour. It's reported that this feud and statement was about some backup dancers who left Taylor for Katy Perry. But many Swiftologists speculate this feud was about so much more and was probably about John Mayer. If you look at the timeline, Taylor and John Mayer break up in February of 2010. It was October of 2010 when Taylor released the song Dear John, very nasty song. In early 2012, Katy Perry and John Mayer were confirmed to be dating, and then in March of 2012, Taylor started her Red Tour with 3 backup dancers on her tour who had been on tour with Katy Perry previously. Then in late 2012, Katy Perry and John Mayer had a very public romantic getaway, which I'm sure was a little triggering for Taylor Swift to see. And at the same time, Katy and John are having their romantic getaway, Katy Perry is also preparing for her 2013 tour. It was in late 2012, Katy Perry also reached out to those 3 backup dancers who had been with her previously and asked them if they would be open to joining her on tour again. In 2013, those 3 dancers decided to leave Taylor Swift's tour and tour with Katy Perry for that next year. Then in September of 2014, after Taylor Swift's Red Tour ended, she did her interview with Rolling Stone, where she revealed that someone she thought was a friend tried to sabotage her tour and revealed it was another female artist. Everyone was trying to figure out who it could be, and then Katy Perry tweeted, quote, "Watch out for the Regina George in sheep's clothing," referencing Regina George from Mean Girls. And Taylor probably just hated Katy Perry and also wanted to basically kick Katy Perry out of the #1 realm. She wanted that #1 spot. Taylor was going pop. She knew Katy Perry was her #1 competition in the industry, and apparently romantically as well with her romantic partners. And many speculate that the backup dancers were just puppets for Taylor just genuinely being jealous of Katy Perry and wanting to ruin her life. Like the backup dancers were just pawns. And this was the first feud that really made people second guess if Taylor Swift was really this helpless little meek and mild victim, or if she had a level of nastiness that she was masking with this sweet girl persona. Now, this whole Katy Perry issue was in 2014. Not even 2 years later, Taylor gets into another feud. This one was with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. Kanye released a song with lyrics that said, "I feel like me and Taylor Swift might still have adult fun." After that song was released, Taylor absolutely destroyed Kanye in the press, saying she told him not to sing any kind of a lyric like that and called him misogynistic and said she never approved any of this. Now, Kim, Kanye's wife at the time, had a totally different story. She told GQ magazine in July of 2017 that not only did Taylor approve those lyrics, she actually came up with them herself. Not only did Kim Kardashian testify Taylor Swift agreed to all of this, she said they had video evidence to prove it. And soon after Taylor's horrible public statements about Kanye West and just throwing him under the bus, Kim released the full video on her Snapchat showing the full phone call. I mean, it was edited, but it was pretty much the full phone call of Taylor Swift and Kanye having a conversation about the lyrics. In this video, in this conversation, Taylor is so grateful to Kanye West for calling her and asking her for this permission.
You still got the Nashville number?
I still have the Nashville area code, but I had to change it.
For all my Southside niggas that know me best, I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex.
Unlike this close to overexposure.
Oh, well this one is I think this is a really cool thing to have.
I know.
Definitely.
I mean, it's like a compliment kind of.
Yeah. What I give a fuck about is just you as a person and as a friend. I want things that make you feel good. I don't want to do rap that makes people feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, go with whatever line you think is better. It's obviously very tongue-in-cheek either way. And I really appreciate you telling me about it. That's really nice.
Oh, yeah. I feel I just had a responsibility to you as a friend, you know. And, thanks for being, like, so cool about it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Like, the heads up is so nice. Like, things without, like, even asking or seeing if I'd be okay with it, and I just really appreciate it. It's like, I never would have expected you to, like, tell me about the line in one of your songs.
It was pretty crazy.
And then the flowers that you sent me, I, like, Instagrammed a picture of them, and it's the most Instagram likes I've ever gotten. It was, like, 2.7.
Relationships are more important than punchlines, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody would listen to that and be like, oh, that's a real diss. Like, she must be crying about it. Just, you gotta story the way that it happened to you and the way that you experienced it. Like, you honestly didn't know who I was before that. It doesn't matter if I sold 7 million of that album before you did that, which is what happened. You didn't know who I was before that. It's fine. I'm at the intent that I can make these things happen, and I have the ideas to do it, and I create these things and concepts, and, like, I'm always going to respect you. And I'm really glad that you had the respect to call me and tell me that as a friend about the song, and it's just like, it's a really cool thing to do, like, and a really good show of friendship, so thank you.
Oh, thank you too.
And, you know, if people ask me about it, I think it would be great for me to be like, look, she called me and told me the line before it came out. Like, joke's on you guys, we're fine. Like, you guys want to call this a feud, you want to call this throwing shade, but, you know, right after the song comes out, I'm going to be on a Grammy red carpet, and they're going to ask me about it, and I'll be like, he called me and awesome that you're so outspoken. They're going to be like, yeah, she does, it made her famous. You know, it's more provocative to say might still have sex, because it's not, it doesn't matter to me. There's not like one that hurts my feelings or one.
She goes on to say, I shouldn't even say she goes on to say, she had the guts to even say that if and when she was asked about these lyrics, because she's anticipating that she will be asked about it at some point. She says, when I am asked about this, I am going to tell them how courteous you were and how kind you were to call me and ask for my permission. And it's going to be so funny because people are going to think there's a feud between us, and they're going to think, oh, like Taylor's mad at Kanye. She says, but I'm going to be so quick to tell them that that's not the case and that you were so kind. And I'm going to tell them about this conversation, and it's going to be funny because it'll be like, haha, like joke's on you. Kanye and I are good. We're friends. Everything's good. She had the guts to say all of that to Kanye, only to do a complete 180 degrees and be an entirely different person after the song comes out. So after the song came out, and the lyric right after that said, Kanye said, I made that be famous. I actually think he got the idea for that lyric from her saying this in the phone call where she says, yeah, it made me famous. And that's what Kim Kardashian was saying, was Taylor Swift actually came up with the lyric herself. I think she's referring to this part of the phone call where Taylor says, yeah, it made me famous.
Awesome that you're so outspoken. They're going to be like, yeah, she does, it made her famous. Yeah, she does, it made her famous. Yeah, she does, it made her famous. It made her famous. It made her famous.
After this conversation with Kanye, out of the blue, she never calls Kanye after the song comes out, by the way, never calls him to say, hey, what the heck? What is this second sentence about I made that be famous? She never called to address that. Like, he had the decency to call her in private, one-on-one. No, instead, in her acceptance speech at the Grammys, she goes on this rant, clearly attacking Kanye and the song by saying, as the first woman to win Album of the Year at the Grammys twice, I want to say to all the young women out there, there are going to be people out there who will try to undercut your success or take credit for your accomplishments or your fame, she said. But if you just focus on the work and you don't let those people sidetrack you, someday when you get where you are going, someday you will look around and you will know that it was you and the people who love you who put you there, and that will be the greatest feeling in the world. Thank you for this moment. As the first woman to win Album of the Year at the Grammys twice, humble brag, even if she did have a problem with it, let's say she did, she could say what she told Kanye she was going to say. How Kanye called her, they had a really good conversation. She was so grateful that he called her about that lyric, but she didn't know he was going to say the next part, and she wishes he hadn't said that. That's not how she says it. She goes on like literally throwing Kanye West under the bus. And even worse, her team after this acceptance speech, that's when they issued the official statement calling Kanye West and the song misogynistic, which is a very strong accusation, especially if Taylor Swift's only gripe was I made her famous, taking credit for fame. Taking credit for someone else's fame is not misogynistic. So the fact that her team came out and called Kanye and the song misogynistic insinuated that they were referring to the line about adult play. But she knew that that lyric existed. So after Kim posted the video, people started talking like, what the heck, Taylor Swift? You had this whole private conversation with Kanye that we didn't know about. People were kind of angry at this point that Taylor had withheld this private conversation and had gone up and just absolutely shredded apart Kanye about this. So when Taylor is confronted, why did you lie? Then Taylor turns it around and goes, oh, I'm referring to the fact that he used the B word and called me the B word. That's what I'm upset about. So then all of a sudden, she's not upset about the adult references. She's not upset about the fact that he's taking credit for her fame anymore. Now she's only upset about the fact he used the B word. Kim, Kanye's wife, comes back to this and is like, everybody uses the B word in their music. Like, he calls me the B word all the time. It's just like, almost like Taylor was just grabbing for straws, like trying to find a scapegoat because she was caught being two different people, being one person behind closed doors and another person to the media. She knows it doesn't look good. And it is the definition of a sociopath to be that level of deceitful, to have that level of manipulation, trying to manipulate your fans into believing something happened a certain way, trying to manipulate your fans into feeling bad for you, into feeling like you are a victim. People started flooding Taylor's Instagram account with snake emojis. And this started what many refer to with Taylor Swift as Snakegate. Taylor had to have an entire team dedicate hours upon hours to deleting every comment from the page that was a snake. And there were a lot of them. And Snakegate was about to get much worse for Taylor. Just when she thought they might have it under control and they might have a good system in place to delete all of these snake emojis, it was in June of 2016, after Taylor Swift had been dating Calvin Harris for about a year and a half. After Taylor Swift and Calvin Harris broke up, Taylor went public saying she had co-written one of Calvin Harris's biggest songs of that year. She said that no one knew that she did this because she had written it under a fake name. Now, Calvin was absolutely furious she went public with this because the two of them had agreed to keep her involvement a complete secret. Hence, the fake name, the fake songwriting name that they put on the album. So Calvin, after she does this, goes on a multi-tweet rant about this, where he said that he wrote the music, produced the song, arranged it, and cut the vocals, and she said she wanted to keep it a secret. And then he goes on to say, this is very hurtful. It's unbelievable that she and her team would go this far to make him look bad. And he figures if you're happy in your new relationship, because she was dating somebody new at this time, he was like, if you're happy in your new relationship, you should focus on that instead of trying to tear your ex-boyfriend down just as something to do. This was quite the Twitter rant. It's very clear and obvious Calvin Harris was very upset and hurt. His feelings were hurt by Taylor Swift, just like how Katy Perry's feelings were hurt. Her reputation was hurt because of Taylor Swift. John Mayer, his feelings, his reputation, going back to the definition of a sociopath, someone who has a total disregard and will callously violate someone's feelings and reputation. And they have no remorse. They never say sorry. They never feel bad about it. It gets worse. Like, this is not even like the worst of it, but this is still pretty bad. Calvin Harris later deletes that Twitter rant. Obviously, he knew he was upset when he did it. He didn't want to write under that kind of emotion, but the fact that he did show how hurtful this was to him and the way he outed Taylor a little bit for being one person behind closed doors and then being a totally different person to the public and to the media, like I said in the beginning, that's concerning in itself. And it's the same two different Taylor personas that we see in that high school video, like the confident, cocky, almost cocky Taylor walking through the high school hallways, high-fiving with her friends, smiling and laughing. saying there's that high school Taylor, and then there's her in the interview being hunched over, and when she talks about it, acting like this victim who was bullied in high school. How can she be two different people? And how could she be two different people to Katy Perry and John Mayer? And now with Calvin Harris, now this is scary because Calvin is saying she wanted to keep this a secret. Her going to the media and saying all of this is clearly malicious and the opposite of the type of person she was behind closed doors. You do not have that level of a disregard for someone else's feelings and someone else's reputation, and you don't throw people under the bus like that, even if you are upset about something. So Kim Kardashian was just having absolutely none of these theatrics. On National Snake Day, Kim took to the internet and said, wait, it's legit National Snake Day? They have holidays for everybody. I mean, everything these days, with like a bunch of snake emojis. So now you have how many celebrities? Katy, John, Calvin Harris, Kim, Kanye. Now you have 5 people who all agree that Taylor Swift has 2 totally different personalities, and she is ruthless and callous in the way she throws these people under the bus with a total, going back to that definition, disregard for people's feelings. And she is violating their feelings, violating these private conversations that they had, violating their trust, going to the media like this for her own personal gain. She is throwing people under the bus and tearing them down for her own personal narcissistic gain. I don't see this any other way. Soon after Snakegate happened, and I mean very soon after, the CEO of Instagram rolled out a feature for celebrities where they could set a default setting so that certain words or emojis that were commented on the page would automatically be deleted. I mean, this was going to save Taylor Swift's team tons and tons of time, hours of time, because now they just had to go into settings and say, okay, anytime somebody comments a snake emoji, automatically delete that comment and or block that person. It's like actually unbelievable. And then, oddly enough, just as quickly as the snakes had invaded Taylor's Instagram, they all went completely extinct. What really was like the nail in the coffin for me was this live performance she gives. She paints herself as the ultimate victim to the saddest piano music.
So, you might be wondering why there's so many snakes everywhere, huh? Well, the reason is that, a couple of years ago, someone called me a snake on social media, and it caught on. And then a lot of people were calling me a lot of things on social media. And I went through some really low times for a while because of it. I went through some times when I didn't know if I was going to get to do this anymore. And I guess the snakes, I wanted to send a message to you guys that if someone uses name calling to bully you on social media, and even if a lot of people jump on board with it, that doesn't have to defeat you. It can strengthen you instead. And I think something that came out of it that was good is that I learned a really important lesson that I've been telling you from the stage for about 10 years. But I never had to learn it so harshly myself, and that lesson has to do with how much you value your reputation. And I think that the lesson is that you shouldn't care so much if you feel misunderstood by a lot of people who don't know you, as long as you feel understood by the people who do know you, people who will show up for you with people who see you as a human being.
Amen.
So thank you for taking the time to get to know me, for showing up for me, for seeing me as a human being. That's you. You did that for me.
And she's saying people are calling her a snake, and she's a victim because people are calling her a snake. You're being called a snake because you've done some snaky stuff. And instead of having the humanity and the humility to think to herself, why am I coming across looking like a snake? Instead of doing that, having some genuine self-reflection and maybe apologizing. No, she's doing none of that. Instead, she is coming on stage and acting like she is a victim. She is trying to manipulate that entire crowd into feeling bad for her because she went out and did a total 180-degree flip from who she was with people behind closed doors. She violated their trust, had a total disregard for their feelings. You know, instead of having a conversation with them one-on-one and resolving her relationship with them one-on-one, she doesn't even talk to them, and she goes and just throws them under the bus to the media and to the public and makes it look like she deserves all of the support. She's trying to manipulate all of the fans into being Team Taylor, not just for her music, but because of false pretenses and feeling like they are behind a cause. Like if you listen to Taylor Swift's music, you're supporting women in music. If you listen to Taylor Swift's music, you are supporting, you know, you're anti-Me Too, or you are Me Too, however you want to say that. If you're supporting Taylor, you know, you're insert whatever good thing you think you are. But let me say this right now. If you want to be a good person, then you do not idolize or buy tickets for someone's show who is a two-sided, two-faced, manipulative, deceitful, probably sociopath. You know, Taylor, if people are calling you a snake, it's because you did something bad. Now, the feud with Scooter is where fit really hits the shan for Taylor Swift. And this is what really scares me, is how far Taylor Swift could go with this Scooter thing. It's actually scary of what she is capable of and the manipulation and the deceit that she is putting on her fans. This is actually scary stuff. Because, and I talk more about the feud with Scooter in my video, Should Taylor Swift Thank Donald Trump? So you can go watch that video and see a more in-depth analysis of that feud. But basically, Scooter owned a ton of Taylor Swift's songs and the rights to those songs, and he sold them in a catalog sale, which was, by the way, 100% legal. He had every right to do that. He owned it and he sold it. And that's a legal business transaction. He doesn't need to ask Taylor Swift for her permission to sell something he owns. Okay, let's be very clear about that. But regardless, Taylor Swift was so upset that Scooter sold all of these rights. She went to the internet and the media and absolutely, again, like she usually does, threw Scooter under the bus, made him out to be the worst person on the planet for doing something completely legal, for doing something completely in his rights. Mind you, her father got $15 million from this catalog sale. So you're telling me that her dad gets $15 million in profit from this sale, and he didn't know that was going to happen, and he had no prior knowledge that this was happening? I don't believe this for a second because of all of these baby red flags that led up to this moment. In every other instance, in this Taylor Swift toxic pattern, she knew about something. She knew something was happening. She had a positive, like peaceful approach to said event. And then as soon as said event happens, she completely flips a switch and goes to the media and throws everyone under the bus and then makes herself look like a total victim in all of it. This is psychotic. This is crazy behavior, and this is 100% the definition of a sociopath, especially because with this Scooter situation, Taylor was so upset about this, she riled up all of her Swiftie fans, and this is where it really becomes apparent, the manipulation and the deceit. This has been years, okay? This has been decades of Taylor Swift manipulating her fans into feeling sorry for her, manipulating her fans into believing that the world is a terrible place and is against her. This has been decades of grooming, for lack of better words, that Taylor Swift has been grooming her fans. So now when this whole thing goes down with Scooter, even though she probably knew it was going to happen, but still, this was the worst thing that could have happened to her. And she goes out and says this to her fans, riles up the Swifties. The Swifties then started threatening Scooter and his wife and his kids, giving them regular death threats. What if someone had actually carried out a death threat against Scooter because of Taylor Swift and what she was saying to the media and the way she was painting Scooter in this horrible, horrible light? Even though, mind you, again, what he did was completely legal. It was a business decision. He sold a catalog. He got a profit. 15 million of that profit went to the Swifts, but yet his wife and his kids are getting death threats. And can you imagine the emotional distress and toll that this had on Scooter and his family? And at any point in time, did Taylor Swift come forward and say to her Swiftie fans, hey guys, this has gone too far. It's really not that bad. This has gone too far. Stop the threats immediately. At no point in time did she do that, because she had a callous disregard and violation of Scooter's feelings and his safety. She literally put him and his family in danger and threatened his safety for her own personal gain. And if no other red flag up until this point screamed sociopath, I mean, now it is clear as day and very, very disturbing. I can't believe she is still accepted in society after doing all of these things to all of these people. I mean, this goes back to Socrates and Aristotle and ancient times. Even in ancient times, they agreed this type of behavior was abhorrent. In fact, if a king or anyone of status in an ancient civilization acted this way, in a deceitful manner, in a manipulative manner, in a manner that was endangering someone's safety and well-being for personal gain, there have been multiple times in history where they literally just exiled them from the country. That's what they used to do in ancient times. If someone was acting that way, you were kicked out of the land, and you were exiled. That was the word. Like I said, this is a video that is for entertainment purposes only. I am not diagnosing anyone. These are my personal opinions, my personal observations, which are very limited to what is available on the internet, to what I have seen. So I don't know. What do you think? What have you seen? What have you been exposed to? And do you think she is actually a sociopath?
Hungry for the road all my life, thirsty for adventure all my youth, chasing all my